Many people say, well, we don't need to be ready. The four horsemen will be later. It cannot happen while we're here. We're going to take a look at this because I understand that this is the common assumption. And I think because of this assumption, we don't know. We can't see. I want you to answer the question for yourself whether it's possible that the first horseman of the apocalypse has already started galloping. Now, the assumption is it's impossible. I know that. I understand that. I've taught in many Bible schools. I understand that is the standard Protestant theology. There's no possible way that it's out of the gate. That only happens in the tribulation. We're not in the tribulation. I agree with that. And yet, let's read. Revelation 6, verse 1. Without any bias, just read it and let it speak for itself. Now I saw, when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard one of the four living creatures saying with a voice like thunder, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a white horse. And he who sat on it had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went out conquering and to conquer. Right, we're given a few clues. Here we go. White. What is white the universal color of? The medical pharmaceutical industry. It's also the color of some wedding gowns in American culture and some Western culture, but not universal. And technically you should wear white only if you're a virgin. Uh-oh. Yeah. You're not supposed to wear white if you're not a virgin. So I don't think it's talking about the invasion of brides, okay? So that can't be the interpretation. But anywhere you go in the world, you see nurses, doctors, they all wear white coats. All right, so possible, right? Possible. It's a clue to something that we all understand. The bow or the arrow is actually the word in the Greek, toxon, from which we get the word toxic or intoxicated or toxicology. By the way, there's this thing where American preachers make fun of the bow because they say there's no arrow. Don't worry about it. That's kind of like me saying, hey, watch out, there's a guy with a gun over there. And you say, don't worry about it. He didn't say that there was any bullets in the gun. You'd be dead. Nobody talks that way. Nobody says, there's a gun, and I think there's a cartridge, and I think there are bullets inside, loaded into the cartridge, and I think he's loaded it. And no, there's a gun. Dummy, there's a gun. Duck. There's a guy with a bow, the arrows come with. Makes sense? And the reason we know it comes with is actually the word for the bow is not the bow. The word for the bow is actually the arrow tip. The word toxon gives its name to the whole weaponry system because they found out in fighting that humans don't die like in Hollywood. You don't just go boom like that and they knock over and they don't get back up. You know, even you stab someone, they don't necessarily die. I know a lady that I was preaching the gospel to. The Lord got me there ahead of time, and she would not accept the gospel. And after we left her, her husband stabbed her 40 times, and she survived. He's in jail today, but she survived. It's not easy to kill people. So they learned that just shooting an arrow might not kill people, so they dipped it in poison. And that poison tip delivered a toxin or something toxic through the skin. So somebody dressed in white is going to come with something sharp dipped in poison that will be delivered through your skin. Okay, now remember, this couldn't possibly be happening. The white horse couldn't possibly be running right now. So we don't know what it's talking about, but we're just going to read it. Is it okay? All right. And then he's given a crown, which in Latin is called corona. Corona in Spanish. Corona in Romanian. But it couldn't possibly be happening right now because our theology has to be right. Right? We can't correct our theology ever. Whatever we knew before has to be right. No, we need to be more humble than that. It's possible that we just didn't know because you couldn't possibly have known until it happened. And sometimes when we make these guesses, this is one of the things that we shouldn't do in Bible interpretation. We teach people not to do this in all areas of, soteriology, pneumatology, whatever you want to study in Bible school. We say, don't just make guesses, let the Bible speak for itself. But when it comes to end time, wow, it's a circus. Any guess is thrown out there. Maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe you don't know, and just be quiet and just wait. Because you're going to confuse people, and it may be part of the end time deception when we start making guesses. I've heard teachings that go one way, the white horse is Jesus Christ. And the other teaching is the white horse is the Antichrist. Well, which one is it? They couldn't be more opposite each other. You're guessing now. You're guessing. The white horse is the white horse. It doesn't say the word Christ, and it doesn't say the word Antichrist. So when you hear somebody saying, I know for sure that white horse is the Antichrist, and the Antichrist is not here, therefore the white horse cannot be here. That's a lot of assumptions. I don't do that. I just say, it says white, it says he comes with a toxon, and he's given a corona. Let's let that speak and see if that might match something that's been happening. Now, you might not be convinced, so I dug a little bit further. Let's see if you like the circumstantial evidence I'm going to present. I'm going to be like a lawyer right now, okay? So I've given you direct evidence from the Word of God. The circumstances are these. We have a guy named Fauci whose name means one who makes or uses a sickle. This is a symbol of the angel of death. His middle name is Stephen. Anthony Stephen Fauci. Anyone know what Stephen means? Stephen means corona. From the time of his birth, his destiny was already named in his middle name. Hidden in his name is the fact that he would be the face of the coronavirus pandemic. By the way, that means my name is there too. So the man who exposes the face of the pandemic is also named Steve. I'm not Stephen, I'm Steve. My full name is Steve. So I'm not the one that's bringing the pandemic. I'm the one that's linked to him to expose that he is the white horse. He already got the bow. He already got the crown. And it's very interesting. The language, the wording, is so precise. It says that he had the toxon and he was given the corona. Normally, it should be the opposite. You understand? You normally don't have the answer before the problem. But he had the vaccine before the coronavirus pandemic. It's exactly how it played out. God is so precise with every word that he says in the Bible. So we're at a point in history where the Word of God is so clear, almost everything we can understand, including in the book of Revelation. It's come to that time, but because, again, we have blinders on, that if anybody got up and said, you know what, I believe the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are currently running, you'd be like, nah. I'm telling you, 99% of the church right now believes against the Word of God that we preach. What are we going to do about this? You and I have a responsibility. We have to wake up the church. We have the truth with us, and we are now the ones suppressing the truth. Anthony Stephen Fauci was dressed in white, given a toxon and a corona. He went forth conquering and to conquer, didn't he? He had more power than many presidents and kings. His word, people hung on to his words. This week, have a mask. Next week, don't have a mask. This week, social distancing. Next week, no, you're free to move around. It was at his command like it was law. Amazing, wasn't it, what we lived through? This pandemic was the first global event since the days of Noah. Remember, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the days of the coming of the Son of Man. We haven't had any global event. Not even World War I or II was completely global. There were nations that escaped. You know, Switzerland did not have war. Thailand did not have war. By the way, these are the 2 main countries that were completely neutral, were not affected. Of course, there might be islands here and there, you know, but big countries, these were the 2. But there were places all over the world that did not necessarily have troops coming through. But the coronavirus, everybody was locked down. Everybody had the vaccine, whether they took it or not. I'm preaching end time since 9/11. 9/11 was when I kind of woke up to this. I said, this is a marker, this is a trigger for the end time. And I know there's a generation now that doesn't even remember 9/11. That's amazing to me. They must have forgotten because New York elected a Muslim mayor. How could we possibly vote in a Muslim mayor after they had targeted New York twice, by the way? They failed the first time. They tried to bomb it from underground, didn't work, too heavy. So they went above ground. People forget. So I'm looking at all this and I counted. The pandemic lasted how long? Now, I need to count this because I'm in Australia and I usually travel at that time 1 country a month. The Lord sends me to 1 country a month. So when the lockdown came, everything got canceled. Remember that? Those of us who had plans? So I'm sitting there in the most locked down city in the world, Melbourne. Melbourne was more locked down than Korea, than North Korea. Can you believe that? Australia is really like a lab test, you know, for all globalist policies. So at one point, they did not allow us to go further than 3 miles. If you drove more than 3 miles, you could be arrested. How do you live like that? How do you pastor? I had to visit people in the hospital, have to visit people in their homes. So I just violated it. I can say it now, they're not going to do anything. I just ignored it. And if they arrest me, then they had to arrest me. But I ignored it. I ignored a lot of things because I just thought this was dumb. But people were really scared. Remember that? Or people hung on to the words of the government like they were God. Wow. So I was counting, when will this lockdown end globally? And it came, and I wrote it in, I think I put it into the book, The Four Horsemen. It came one after the other. It started coming at June. May to June 2023, it was over. So remember, December to January, we started getting the news. We started seeing people like falling down in China, convulsing, and you're like, how come that never happened again? Nobody questions that. They showed it like it's this like mass fear that people, if you get coronavirus, you're going to drop down, you're going to convulse, you're going to die right there on the street. And it turned out that this thing was so harmless, you had to get tested to know whether you had it. You couldn't tell by yourself if you were affected. Only a test could tell you. Now, some people, of course, got the worst strain of it. Some people were affected. And then they got the shot, they got the heart attacks. I have all sorts of stories about that. And they're beginning to admit it. But you count from January, whether you count from December 2019 or January 2020, let's make it simple, January 2020, to June 2023, how long is that? Come on. Come on. 3.5 years. Now, if you study Bible prophecy, 3.5 years comes up, you go, hey, wait a second, I've seen that before. 3.5 years, 42 months, 1,260 days. These are markers in time. This is something that God has said to look out for. We just didn't think we needed to look out for it. It doesn't matter to us. But when this pattern came, I said, wait, if this is the pattern God is showing me, the whole world should be jumping up and down saying the Bible's true. Now we can predict the next horse, and the next horse, and the next horse. And God has marked out 4 in particular. Now, there are 22 events in the book of Revelation, 22 chapters, 22 main events, but these 4 have been marked out especially. And then we're given a 3.5-year timeline for the first horse. So I'm going to roll with it. The Bible is telling us 3.5 years. What if it just continues that way? Now, this I predicted 11 years before it happened in 2009. You can see I was younger, so this is not doctored, okay? I predicted that there would be a pandemic. They would lock us down. They would put masks on us. They would implement a type of martial law. And that's all posted on a YouTube channel. I don't know anybody else who did that. God gave that to me so that it would confirm this revelation. It's not to say, oh, wow, Pastor Steve got one thing right. No, it's to confirm that if we could predict, if God knew ahead of time and told ahead of time about the pandemic, then you better get ready for the next stuff. That's not AI, okay? That's really me. All right. Now, we're going to look at the timeline. Now that you've got a little bit of a basis, you know that Revelation is relevant. Whether you believe it or not, you go study it yourself, but it's possible that it's referring to the pandemic. If it's not referring to the pandemic, you'd have to have something pretty much like the pandemic. I don't know what else could be that precise.